Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Yes. Oh, wonderful. Well, good morning to you. The only thing that would make this a better morning if it were Monday. For those of you who don't know me well, I love Monday morning, but today is Wednesday, and today is Wednesday, right? Okay. I lose track of that sometimes, so we're going with that. So welcome to the Retriever Talks. I'm welcoming you, but this is my first one. How many of you have been to Retriever Talks previously? Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. So this is my first one, as I just mentioned. And I woke up this morning thinking, what am I going to say to these people? And this is what came to me. I looked at this last night and I went to bed and I thought, I still don't know what I'm going to say to these people. And I woke up this morning and I printed out your Retriever Talks agenda. And the titles, I put it up on my mirror when I was getting dressed this morning, and I said, oh, there it is. And I looked at your topics, and I felt gratitude. And the gratitude that I felt, particularly around community, was that I actually had community in my own life. And what was interesting to me was when I looked at your topics, I said, okay, well, the first topic is the gift of uncertainty. I was like, I've got a community that I go to when I am uncertain. And I looked at the next topic, and it had the word your own care. And I said, I got a community that teaches me how to do self-care. And then I looked at the next one, it's receive, grow, and serve. And I've got a community where I receive things, they're helping me to grow, and they enable me to serve. And then I looked at the one part of the next one says that it makes life more manageable. And I thought, I got a community whose whole job is to let me know when my life has become unmanageable. It's not y'all. I know sometimes you think it is, but it's not you. And then I have another community. The next one says that ends in empowering the real you. I have a community that ensures that I show up with my authenticity as my real self, and they will call it out when I am not being my real self because they know me. And then the next one has the words of encouragement. It's planting seeds of hope through words of encouragement. For those of you who don't know me yet, I have a community that helped me discover what my gifts were. Everybody in this room has gifts. You do realize that, right? Okay. It turns out I have two. No, I'm just telling you. I found out I have two. Maybe you have 10 or 1. I have 2. I discovered that I was given the gift, which means not only the capacity, but the joy of teaching and encouraging. Those are my 2 gifts. And this has encouragement in it, and I thought, wow, not only do I have a community that encourages me, but they do that so that I can go out and encourage other people. And then the next one says, level up, and has the word reimagining, and I love that because I have a community that when I kind of level off, you know what I mean? They help me level up and reimagine what's next. Oh my gosh. And then I looked at the last one and I thought, well, thank God for this one. It says navigating the seas of adversity. And there's no version of uncertainty or growth or trying to be authentic and encouraging others or going from leveling off to leveling up that doesn't come with adversity. It's just the nature of life, right? Even if you do nothing, right? You can sit still, minding your own business every day, and adversity will find you, won't it? Like it's just life, right? It's the nature of life. And I have a community that when I'm in that space, they just cover me and encourage me. So I got excited when I saw your topics today because I thought, oh, I'm so grateful that I know I have found community. What I would say about community for me, you asked me what it means, I learned the hard way that putting all of my eggs in one basket is a bad move. Right? No one human can be my community. I can't get everything I need from one person. Couldn't get it from my mother, can't get it from a partner. Like, there's no one person who can be your everything. Right? And that's going to cause some adversity if you try to. All right, that's going to cause some problems, and they're going to be exhausted with me. Right? No human can carry the fullness of another human. So that's why we need community. Here's the trick. You need more than one community. Because not just one community can't do your whole thing. Like, if my whole community was UMBC, I would be in trouble. Right? Because there are days when UMBC is clapping, like when I came out here, there are days when UMBC is not going to clap, and some of y'all in the audience didn't clap. Okay? If I depended on you for my everything, then it's gonna come out sideways. I'm gonna need to people please, right? I'm gonna need to think I need to be perfect. I'm gonna care too much about what you think in ways that aren't healthy, right? So I'm grateful. I have 4 communities. And if you were at my inauguration, you saw all of them. Every one of my communities showed up. Like my church community, you saw that. My mentoring community, you saw that. You saw my family, who all had on black and gold. Did you see that? That was fun. And then you may have met some of my friends. I tell people I actually have friends. People don't believe it. Like, so what makes my life manageable is that recognition. I had to learn the hard way that no one person can be my everything, and no one community can be my everything. And even on the good days, even the community that's supposed to be there might not be there because we're all human. So then I got to go to my next plan B. That's my self-care, is to have a plan B, right? To have a plan C. So I have so much gratitude this morning. I have so much gratitude and joy. And I can't wait to see what this does for you and how it builds your life and your community and enables you to show up here as your best selves. We all are working things out. That's life, right? Some days we're at our best selves and some days we're not. But when I have community, I have a better chance of showing up as my best self. So I welcome you. I am delighted you are here. And you just were a gift to my morning by putting this on my mirror this morning. So thank you and welcome, and I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Good morning, UMBC. Let's give another round of applause for our amazing president. Wasn't that an amazing introduction that she did? Truly. You know, what I loved about it was she used what was on the page to bring her talking points into action, right? Didn't have to prepare anything. Really just followed the chi, followed what was on the script. And also, I want to say that what you're going to be hearing today are stories about our speakers, but I know every one of you in this audience has some of those same gifts. So we want you to see yourself through what you're about to hear. So if you don't know me, I'm Jill Wardell, and I am here to basically prime the listening space for the experience that we are about to have. But before we begin, I need to start with a bow of gratitude for all of you. You could have chosen to be anywhere today, and you chose to be here with us. And for that, we thank you. Our listening is one of the biggest gifts that we can give each other in creating community, and we don't take your listening for granted. You may be here to support a special speaker, colleague, friend, but I hope over time that you will find yourself immersed in the stories that you hear today, not only in a passive way, but in a reflective, active way that helps you resonate or find unity with each of them, but also with the shared values that we as a community try to step into and live into every day. You may also think that you are here to hear stories about the speakers that are going to be on this stage, and yet that would only be partially true. Each of our 8 who encompass a diverse makeup representing all levels in the organization and various lived experiences, have gone through a rigorous hero's journey to transform their talk from a focus on me to you to us. And it's in uniting our deep gladness with the world's deep hunger that we make a true impact. The stories that you may hear today, that you will hear today, may be about the speakers, but in the end, they're not for them, they're for you. So we hope that you take that in. This journey required bravery, and for many, a hero's leap, quantum leap, actually, of faith. Many have never prepared a speech before or stood on the stage. Even our most experienced speakers had to unlearn hardwired presentation habits that often prioritize the head to the neglect of the heart. This process required them to integrate both in their talks, tapping into their hearts while also tapping into their heads through concise, profound thought. In honor of their bravery, we ask that you make the same journey today by tuning into both through the ear of the heart. As Maya Angelou reminds us, we are always remembering how people make us feel. Same thing goes for speakers, right? We always remember how speakers make us feel, but often that task requires enormous bravery and vulnerability. So we ask that you listen today to these deeply personal journeys with an open heart and a spirit of curiosity and gratitude. Our community is much bigger than the borders and the buildings that define our physical space. It is continually enacted into existence through us, through the embodiment of our shared values, in ways that we can see, feel, and touch. How we welcome and care for ourselves and others. How we move through adversity, uncertainty, and difficulty. How we challenge our individual and collective certitudes. How we invent and create meaningful ideas, programs, and initiatives. And how we step into our highest selves, not for ourselves, but as a way of emptying ourselves for the sake of others. These are the micro behaviors that, when practiced daily, create and define us collectively for the world to see. Each of us has the ability to respond. We are response-able. We all have the potential to be servant leaders and agents of positive change, responding when we are called. How we respond matters, furthering the UMBC way. So as you listen to our stories today, we invite you to reflect on your own. What commitment will you be as an active co-creator of the community that you're in, whether it be this one or another, or maybe several? What story will you tell? One that transcends you and includes you for the sake of others, for the sake of all of us. Thank you. So now, without further ado, I would love to actually get you on your feet, if you would be willing to do it, and we are going to have a big old clap to bring in Retriever Talks 3, Revealing Our Common Unity and Community. Our first speaker, Dr. Brittany Brown. Let's call her in.
In our first track, Explore Every Angle, we welcome to the stage Dr. Brittany Brown, who will be exploring uncertainty and revealing the unexpected gifts that often accompany it.
Have you ever met a person who's so structured and organized that it's annoying? You know, the people who clean house on Saturday and meal prep on Sunday and only start new routines on Monday. You know those people, the ones who have a list for everything. To-do list, grocery list. If there is a list to have, they definitely have a list. Don't those people get on your nerves? Well, my name is Brittany, and I am those people. Myers-Briggs calls me an ESTJ, and Enneagram calls me a number 1, also known as the perfectionist. And well, I call myself an I-dotting, T-crossing, list-making planner extraordinaire who appreciates order. And that's all right with me. So it would come as no surprise to you that when life presented the perfect opportunity for me to get my first puppy, I went about the process the exact same way I go about my life, planned and in order. I found the right breeder, the right dog, bought all the right stuff, and was excited to pick up my new puppy on August 5th. So you can imagine how I felt when I read the email from UMBC that said, all departments will be staffed on August 9th. Now that was not a part of the plan. I was supposed to have months to crate train and potty train and find a vet, and 4 days just wasn't enough time to do that. So what do y'all think I did? Duh. I did what any sensible person would do when uncertainty threatens to ruin a perfectly good plan. I made another one. I bought a puppy cam. I got not 1, but 2 dog walkers. I prepared explicit feeding and walking instructions and took myself to work just in time for opening meeting. 2 weeks passed and we were smooth sailing. Crate training and potty training were going really well until one evening Broadway woke up from a nap, unable to stand and trembling all over, and I knew something wasn't right. As I rushed him to the vet, my thoughts were racing. Did I do something wrong? Did he eat something off the ground? I gotta go to work tomorrow. I don't have time for this. So this is why people take the day off when their dogs get sick. How am I so attached to this dog already? Y'all, my thoughts were all over the place. 2 emergency vet visits, an overnight stay, a spinal tap, and lots of money later, thank God for pet insurance, I learned that Broadway had contracted this freak spinal infection that would require daily meds, many visits to a neurologist, and the doctor told me we'd simply have to wait and see how he progressed. Wait and see? That's not a plan. Wait and see wasn't something I could wrap my mind around. Y'all, I had a full-blown meltdown. I pressed, I asked questions, I panicked, I prayed, I cried, I second-guessed myself. Y'all, my mama was so worried, she was ready to pack her bags and get on the first thing smoking from Arkansas to be my dog sitter, as if I had birthed an actual baby. Then finally, when I realized that I couldn't plan around the uncertainty, I did the only thing that was left to do. I leaned into it. So every day at 8 a.m., I gave Broadway his meds. And every month, for 6 months, we went to see Dr. Harvey. And before we knew it, the waiting and seeing was over. And somehow, without a plan, he was just fine. Now, I know that some of you are listening to this story and thinking, why is she telling us a story about a dog? But I hope that most of you have realized that I am not only telling you a story about a dog, I'm also telling you a story about what happens when God laughs at your plans. When the rug of life is literally pulled from underneath your feet. Am I the only one here who's ever had a plan to get ruined? Let me see your hands. This is a safe space. Am I the only one who really resonates with the words of the great poet, Mike Tyson? when he said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that I'm not the only one. I'm also going to guess that whatever your experience was, it probably taught you an invaluable lesson. I learned that while certainty surely has its place, uncertainty too is a gift. I learned that just because I didn't have a plan, I had a very capable canine neurologist who did. In other words, I had to trust that someone smarter and wiser than me had everything under control. Sometimes that someone is God. Sometimes that someone is the universe, or maybe nature. In my case, that someone was Dr. Harvey. Regardless of who it is, when it feels like the ground underneath you is shifting, you have to trust that someone has a plan that is often bigger, better, and far beyond anything you ever could have planned for, asked for, or dreamed of. So I'll ask you, who is your someone? I learned that I have some pretty amazing family, friends, colleagues, and despite what we see on TV, I believe that there's still some pretty good strangers in the world. What do I mean? I mean that leaning into uncertainty also means leaning into vulnerability. And if you choose to do so, you'll find that there's an entire village just waiting on the other side to support you. In fact, they've been waiting on you to ask for help. Vulnerability is scary and hard, and inevitably at some point life's gonna shove us into it. And when that happens, there's always someone on the other side to catch you. So who is your village? Who is your community? I learned that when a freak spinal infection threatens to ruin your reputation as a dog mom, and any emotional resolve that you thought you had, in just 2 short weeks, a little potty accident is laughable, and a mishap, like eating up my journal and leaving it on the floor, is frustrating, but it's not the end of the world. What I mean is that uncertainty builds resilience. The things that would have broken us pre-COVID, last year, last month, maybe even yesterday, have instead helped us to realize that we can bend, that we can be flexible, that we can withstand more than we ever thought possible. And for that, we are even better versions of ourselves than we were before. So in the moments when the ground underneath you feels unsteady, when it feels like it's too big to tackle alone, when it feels like it literally might break you, I hope you'll remember this story. I hope you'll remember to trust the plan that is larger than you. I hope you'll remember to be vulnerable. I hope you'll remember that you are more resilient than you thought. I hope you'll remember that although we don't always like it, uncertainty too can be a gift. Thank you.
In order for us to care for our community, we have to pour from a full cup. In our next talk, Lori Hardesty shares her journey back to self-care and the strategies she implemented to get to the other side.
Valentine's Day, 2021. At 5 a.m., I woke up my husband, Rob. I had been up all night, anxiety just pulling at all corners of my mind. In fact, it had been months since I had a restful night of sleep. I told Rob I wanted to quit, just quit it all. Quit working at the Shriver Center after 25 years. I had nothing left to give. My heart hurt and my well was dry. I worried about everybody and everything. I mastered doom scrolling hours at a time. There's nothing good left in the world. I was convinced that the branches that hung heavily over my husband's truck were going to fall. They're going to crush Rob's truck. I became obsessed with our front-loading washing machine. That thing gets dirtier than you'd ever imagine. After a big snowstorm, I took my dog for a walk. Halfway through a slow trudge, I sat down and I just cried. What's wrong with me? Things were falling apart at work too. At the start of the pandemic, I had a deep sense of purpose to support my people. I was proud of the pivot that my team made to create virtual community spaces. And my youngest daughter, Lucille, she was my technology DJ. But the disruption took a toll. I had nothing left to give at student check-in meetings, and in fact, I began to dread them. I started skipping out on team meetings and PSS duties. I had nothing left to give. Remote work relegated me to my makeshift basement workspace. Boy, did I resent the blurred space of work and home life. The fun blinky lights, the new comfy work chair, those were just Band-Aids of pretend. And my daughters, they had a front row seat to my unraveling. When I was their age, I witnessed my father's mental health struggles too. Then I had a moment of clarity. Enough was enough. I had to focus on me. This was not sustainable. With help from my husband and my supervisor, Michelle Wolf, I stepped away from work. At first, a few days, maybe 2 weeks. That wasn't enough. With the help of HR, I officially took a 4-month self-care sabbatical. FMLA is not just for caregiving of newborns or aging parents. It's for us too. I saw my doctor, Dr. Rao, who witnessed the symptoms of my stress and my more than 40-pound weight loss in 3 months. Believe me, that was not the way I wanted to lose weight. Dr. Rao was patient with me, and it was time to prescribe me an anti-anxiety medication. Was I becoming like my dad? He needed medication too. It was clear I needed therapy. My husband's a therapist. Can you imagine? Rob was a huge help in what he could do. He set short-term goals, walked me through different therapeutic styles, and helped me set search filters. That's how I got connected with Laura. We actually never met in person. All of our sessions were virtual. And good thing, so she couldn't smell me. It had been weeks since I had taken a shower. My depression just froze me from doing the most basic things. I learned in sessions with Laura that the coping strategies I used for a challenging childhood growing up just no longer served me. You see, I lost my mother before I was 8 years old. And my dad, he struggled with his mental health, and he did the best he could to support my brother and I until he couldn't. Eventually, Child Protective Services had to remove my brother and I from the home. We had no local family that could help, and a friend's family stepped up. It was the closest sense to belonging that we had. In sessions with Laura, I learned that through my tough childhood growing up, I became a people pleaser. I never wanted to rock the boat for fear of rejection, and I certainly didn't want to go to another home. But I also didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I had to rumble and reckon with my past to begin the healing process. During my time away, my colleagues reached out to me through text messages, phone calls. They even sent a book of poetry. While I wasn't yet in a place to respond, like a sponge, I absorbed all of their compassion. Listen, we remember how people make us feel. As spring sprung, my mood began to bloom along with the hyacinths and tulips. I was starting to come out again. My sessions with Laura were really powerful. I even attended a colleague's virtual baby shower. Summer thunderstorms sometimes cut the power short with Laura, but yeah, again, they were still powerful. I was starting to come out. I was starting to return to life. Thinking back on what helped my return to life be so successful, I lean into three themes. Number one, foster caring relationships. Plan and fiercely protect time with your friend squad. Moms, I see a lot of moms out here. Sorry, I have to do that. Raise your hand if you're a mom. I see a lot of moms. Happy Mother's Day. And moms, you need a night out too. It makes you a better mom. Surround yourself with people who truly want the best for you. It might be your book club, your church community, a sports team. Who are your people? And mentor. When we mentor, we become better versions of ourselves as we help others seek to find meaning in their lives. This past fall, I was an assistant coach and was honored and truly filled my heart to create brave spaces for these girls. I wanted them to know that they mattered regardless of skin color, size, height, sexual orientation. Consider the gifts that your mentors gave you. We all need nudging. Number two, manage expectations. Set boundaries with your time. Take a lunch break, go for a walk, take time off. Listen, the stockpiling vacation time is not a badge of honor to be proud of. Who here has over 400 hours? Aww. And respect your colleagues' time off too. When you're off, you're off. Oh boy. Set up your out-of-office message with a point of contact for someone who can handle things for you. And don't eyeball email. Oh my gosh. You know who you are. Build email reading back into your first day or second, depending how long you're out. And say no. Remember my people-pleasing past? I'm nice and I smile. But please don't take advantage of my helpfulness just because I'm good at it. I'm an arranger who's juggling many moving parts. In my past, I own that my service has been a disservice to others and limited their growth. And if I ask a favor of you, I give you permission to tell me no. And finally, number three, create meaningful participation. Stop what-ifing and just do things. If there's an adventure you want to go on, Do it. Go on that trip, go to that concert, just do it. If you're a self-sabotager like me, keep moving forward and don't fall off the stage. The antidote to imposter syndrome is action. Make sure you include self-care. True Balance Fitness Studio, pedicures, massages. If I won the lottery, I would get a massage every week from Harmony and Wellness. What's your jam? Embrace lifelong learning. Last spring, I took a social leadership and dialogue class with Dr. Lee and Dr. Christian. As a white woman of privilege, I learned frameworks and language that challenge systems of oppression. I also practice strategies that prioritize humanity, and I'm better for it. Create opportunities for others. Stomp with and for those who have been othered. Give them the mic, let them keep it, and then get out of the way. Slow down. I'm really good at that. Slow down. Make space for your own self-care. And reflect on why that matters, not just for you, but for others. We all know that analogy, the oxygen mask on the airplane. First, you have to put on your own oxygen mask before you can help your children. When I was at my lowest, my oxygen mask was nowhere to be found. And I didn't think there'd be another tomorrow for me. No one can find your joy but you. And you have to do the work. And it gets hard. My authentic self is a work in progress every single day. I hope my story inspires you, whether you're going through your own challenges or coming out the other side. Because you matter and you belong here at UMBC. Thank you.
As we move into our Reach Together track, we explore the connection between our interpersonal relationships and our shared success. In our next talk, Justin Payton uses the analogy of nature and the development of a date tree to parallel his own journey of growth and transition into servant leadership.
Let us learn from those who plant dates. A date tree takes 80 years from the first time it's planted to bear its first fruit. To plant a date tree is an act of faith, a sign of hope, and one's loving commitment to the future. Every time I've read that, multiple times, I get goosebumps. There's something about it. To the point where I'm like the goat going, ah! Every sentence reveals a part of my life. Today, I want to take you on 3 specific chapters of my life, each building upon the next. My hope is that you can see a part of you and my stories and emerge with something new. Chapter 1, let's begin with the planners and the roles they play in our lives. Think about someone who has taught you something valuable and you can't let it go. We all have different planners, and they're all teaching us things we desperately needed to know. It is senior year. I met Spencer when I was a resident assistant. As a supervisor, he was there with me. Graduation approach, I felt excited, but then extremely nervous because I needed to figure out what to do with my life. In the chaos, Spencer was there. He was a constant. Like a planner, he believed in me when I did not believe in myself at all. He gave me the nudge I needed, and sometimes pushing me when my feet refused to move a little bit. Every push and nudge was a reassurance to step into the unknown. Well, that unknown turned out to be going to grad school, and working for assessment. Yeah, 2 things I know nothing about at the time. However, I had Kim Case. She was my supervisor. For those 2 years in grad school, she was my guide. One day, I walked in her office and sat down, and she said, "Do you know what a growth mindset is?" I said, "No. Why would I know?" However, exactly. However, that one question unlocked something within me I didn't know. It became a core idea of my life and identity. A simple mantra: believe growth will occur. It became how I viewed grad school and how I wrote a thesis. Fun fact, that's what my thesis was about. Every draft, every meeting, every struggle was evidence for my growth. Kim instilled the idea that I need to believe in myself, and I also believe that growth will occur. These planners were critical. Spencer showed me nudges are needed. Kim taught me how to take every day as an opportunity to reflect and grow. Now, I'm sure we all know what growth is, but I want to dig into what the actual idea of the source of growth is for chapter 2. Random fun fact, that's 1 of 4 windowsills that contains 4 plants in my apartment. I love taking care of plants. I love researching plants. Not knowing much about a date seed, I went to the good old Google. Did you know a date seed takes 6 to 8 weeks to sprout roots? Then 4 years later, you have a tree. Then 76 years later, you have fruit. That is a long time for freaking fruit, as you all agree. I don't have, obviously, a date tree with me today, but I brought a friend from home. This is a Chinese money plant. We have lots of conversations, lots of one-on-ones. Anybody else do that? I don't see any hands, that's cool. No matter how much I talk to this plant, my voice isn't the source of growth. It's the roots. When we are stagnant, like this plant can be, the roots are what get us through. At the core, the roots are our beliefs. We all have different roots, developed an identity, community, or a passion you found within yourself. These roots, with strong beliefs and internal values, will get us through the struggle of daily life or the hardest thing that you have to deal with right now. With strong beliefs and internal values in line, do they encourage growth for you right now? Or are they making you stagnant? Right now, I'm sure with those questions you might be feeling 1, 2, or all these emotions. I am right now because this is what growth is for me right now. Standing on a stage, talking to people I don't know and some people I do know, this is what growth looks like. No matter what you feel, it is data and information. It tells us why growth is pushing us along, how growth is helping us. So maybe as you go through a day and not knowing what's going to occur, take a different perspective. Don't ask how, but say yes to the unknown. And remember, the rest will unfold over time. Now, the planters, they don't worry about 80 years. The plant will do the work. They focus on the why. In chapter 3, I want to dig into the idea of why they choose to plant the dates. Robert Greenleaf, the father of servant leadership, has the answer. A servant leader consciously decides to serve first with joy to inspire others to serve. Kim and Spencer taught me that servant leadership both requires actions and words. So you're probably wondering at this point, how is this done? I've got an answer for you right here. I got cookies. Cookies is how servant leadership happens. Here you go. Have a cookie. Have a cookie. Baking is how I love to connect and care with others and show them they have value. When you care and connect with someone, it motivates them. And when they feel motivated, they want to serve others well. AKA, that is what servant leadership is. We all can be servant leaders, but how do we create a community of servant leaders? Listen well, ask questions, and make sure to learn about and from others. Make space for others to use their gifts and let them lead where they may. Seize the opportunity to grow as a community through service. We all can be the date tree. Our primary goal is to bear fruit and provide a resting place for all of us to come. That is one way we can create a better future that includes the best for everybody in this room and outside this room. As I come to a close, I want to invite you into a moment of reflection. Let's begin by closing our eyes, taking a deep breath in, listen to my words and block out all the other noise around you, and reflect upon these 3 questions I have to offer. Who are the planters in your life? What growth wants to happen through you? Where are the opportunities for you to serve others right now and serve them well? As you all open your eyes, I just want to remind you of 3 things. Receive from others, keep growing, and serve to the best you possibly can. Thank you.
In today's busy world, adding another thing to our to-do list is the last thing we want to do. In this next talk, Dr. Kathy Glyshaw makes an interesting connection between time, stress, and flexibility, offering new possibilities that lead to individual and collective resilience.
So, how many of you out there have a to-do list? Show of hands. And now, how many of you want to add to that to-do list? I figured probably not that many. No. But what I've discovered is that actually adding to your to-do list can lighten your load. The trick is, you just need to know what to add. And I'm hoping that my sharing of this story will help you learn just what you might want to add to your to-do list. I teach psychology here at UMBC. I teach an undergraduate course that focuses on helping students learn how to interview others. The word interview comes from the French word to see, or to see one another. And as a clinical psychologist, I just really like that fact. For to see someone seems to really get at the heart of what interviewing is all about. And to truly see someone, now that's a difficult thing, and often a difficult concept to get across to students. The origin of the word gave me an idea of how I might help my students understand this. I created a visual exercise that I'd actually like to do with you. I have a picture that I plan to show you, but first I want you to try and visualize it, okay? So if you're comfortable, please close your eyes and try to form a mental image of this picture as I talk to you about it. It's a picture that I took while in Northern Ireland of what is known as the Mussenden Temple. I was standing inside some nearby castle ruins when I took the picture. The temple is the focal point. It has a domed roof and some columns, and it appears to be made of like a light-colored concrete or stone. The castle ruins themselves are visible in the picture, and there is a path that runs from the temple to the ruins through a grassy stretch. And taken at dusk, there's some pink and yellow clouds amidst the mostly gray-blue sky. Now I'm going to have you open your eyes, for typically by the time I've shared this much information, my students think they've got a complete grasp of it. So I have them draw it in their groups. And it's at this point that they realize, oh, our images don't quite match up with each other, okay? And they argue about how to draw it and what it looks like. And then, when they're finished, I have them share the pictures with the entire class. Interesting, huh? And then, I share the picture. Are you ready? Okay. Now, I don't know how well you did visualizing this, but most of my students admit they were a little bit off. Okay? They realized that they assumed a number of things about the picture. And we do this in life, don't we? We think we have total grasp of a person or a system, but really, we've just filled in the details with our own assumptions. Even though we're aware of the problems of assumptive thinking, we do it, even as educators. In fact, the educational system itself, it even reinforces assumptions about students and what's best for them. Take the artificial deadline, what I like to call the pumpkin rule. Assignments are due at midnight and not a moment later. Yes. The assumption is that educators must set firm deadlines for all in order to be fair. And good students would surely get in their assignments on time. And then those others, well, they just must be unmotivated. Students who partied or procrastinated or were just plain lazy. The clock strikes, the paper must be turned in, no excuses. But what if there are? What if there are legitimate reasons for that paper not to be turned in? You see, I came to teaching from having spent 20 years in college mental health, and I knew that there were many reasons for papers not to get in on time. The death of a parent, a sexual assault, suicide of a friend, an unwanted pregnancy, mental illness. The list goes on and on. But when I first started teaching at UMBC, I was warned that as a clinician, I might have a tendency to be a little soft on my students. Yeah. And I knew I was stepping from one world where I'd been trained to be flexible and to see students as experts on themselves into another world with strict standards, uniformity, treating all students the same way. Consistency across courses, consistency across students, and I felt constricted. Professors often hold that they don't have time to deal or address the individual student. I've got 100 students in my class. How am I supposed to learn all their names? If I grant one exception, then I'm going to have to grant it for all students, and I don't have time to be continually doing that. Most of the time, we don't stop to think just how much time is lost by failing to see the whole picture. I know I didn't. I tried to ignore my clinical instincts, and I set firm, rigid deadlines. And I was met with a bunch of really anxious students, okay? The deadlines and the rigidity, it just set up this negative dynamic. And students were constantly questioning me, constantly emailing me. They worried about everything. And they became just as nitpicky and inflexible with me. My to-do list ballooned as I strove to double-check everything, for every little word could be questioned, every little mistake magnified. They were just constantly pecking at me and wearing me and my enthusiasm for teaching down. And I realized I did not have time to be this rigid and limit-setting. It wasn't helping me teach better, and it wasn't helping them learn more. With help from the Faculty Development Center, I learned to trust my instincts a little more. And I added to my to-do list things that connected me more with my students, learning their names, emailing them about questions that they'd had, seeing them as adults who could educate me on what works best for them, allowing them the flexibility to choose their own deadlines. And all of this has helped me to see the fuller picture and helped me to help them achieve more success. But now, before you try to stop me and say, okay, this is great, but I don't have time to be learning names, making these connections, challenging norms about deadlines, realize this: these changes, they lighten my load. For when we connect and we offer choice, we become motivators to our students. We change the dynamic from being powered-centered and limit-setting to being powered-sharing and flexible. Yeah, it took time for me to gather all the pieces of their story, but it took more time to deal with their unhappiness. For when we are, I'm sorry, when we are, I knew that was going to happen. When we misunderstand others, sorry about that. When we misunderstand others, that slide went too fast. We are left to deal with their frustration. And when we are rigid, we end up having to deal with all their anxiety. Taking the time to have a clearer picture, it's worth it. Not only does it allow for more positive energy, less stress, more manageable to-do lists, it leads to us being our better selves. For we are better when we connect, when we truly see each other. We are better when we create an environment where all feel valued and learn to value others in return. So I ask you, what can you add to your to-do list that will help you to see the full picture? Thank you.
When we claim our future, we recognize the power that comes with personal agency and empowerment. In our next talk, Melissa Jasper steps us through her own journey of empowering her authentic self and offers lessons to enable each of us to walk in our power and purpose.
Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." My mother and father were powerful examples of being unapologetically themselves. The foundation and how they showed up in their daily lives directly impacted me, and as a result of the real Melissa Jasper you see standing before you today. My mother grew up in the Jim Crow South, where she was told that she could not attend a university to become a nurse because of the color of her skin. Her passion and desires did not allow negativity bias to deter her from stepping into her dream. My mother traveled 50 miles away to Selma, Alabama, to attend the Good Samaritan School for Practical Nursing, graduating first in her class and scoring the highest amongst her classmates on her nursing state boards. My father loved the game of golf, but he was not allowed to play on the rolling greens of the segregated country clubs because of the color of his skin. This restriction did not deter him either. Together with his brothers and a few friends, they decided to create a golf course using a softball field. Now, what they created was not as beautiful as the rolling greens of the country club, but they used what they had. And what they created enabled them to continue pursuing their passion and the love for the game of golf. They were welcoming to anyone who wanted to join them and play. Over the years, my father's love for the game of golf never wavered. In spite of adversities, fears, negative biases, and opinions of others, my parents empowered and embraced themselves to achieve their passions and desires on their own terms. With these examples and their strong foundation, who am I not to embrace and empower the gifts, desires, and the passions within me? And who are you not to embrace and empower the gifts, desires, and passions within you? We have an obligation to grow into our authentic selves. We can show up to the world each and every day as the real individuals we were created to be. Though I had the examples and the foundation laid by my parents, I had my own journey of identifying and getting to know the real me. I had to learn to pause and be still from the busyness of life to have enough time to sit and get to know me. Let me tell you, sitting with yourself is rewarding and often very uncomfortable. It is in that quiet stillness that you get to see your gifts, your talents, those things that make you feel good and loved. You also get to see your flaws and weaknesses, those things that make you feel ashamed, unworthy, and inadequate. Those things that you want to ignore and you want to hide. You want to pretend that those things don't exist. But they too are for gifts in disguise. Yes, weaknesses and flaws make you vulnerable, and no one wants anyone to see what makes them vulnerable. Vulnerability exposes you, and who wants to be exposed? However, for me, when I learned to embrace and expose my flaws and weaknesses, those things that make me vulnerable, I actually became stronger and more fully human. It is in exposing your light and shadow and accepting all of it that you experience true freedom. As I began to work on the things that I wanted to change about myself, I learned to accept those things that I can't change or don't want to change. It is empowering for others to see you being vulnerable in a way that reveals strength. We are all on a journey of growth, sharing ourselves with others, giving them permission to embrace what makes them vulnerable, inspiring them to do what needs to be done, and to experience the freedom from self-declared acceptance. Now, I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about my journeys. In my early years, up until I was 30, I felt unworthy, ashamed, and inadequacies filled my mind, but I couldn't show it. You see, I came from a family of college graduates who had it all together, and they made learning look really easy. And here I was, struggling with the basic courses, learning the piano, and even making friends. In order to hide my weaknesses and self-sabotaging thoughts, I created a persona, an imposter, one that I thought I needed in order for my family, my friends, and colleagues to accept me. This imposter began showing up as me for me. I lived my life according to what I thought others thought I should be, while hiding the real me. I became increasingly frustrated and exhausted. I started arguing with myself and saying, why do I have to be someone else? Why can't I be okay with being me? My imposter was no longer serving me. One morning in the year 2000, I woke up and I couldn't move my head. I could only face forward. I went to the emergency room, was seen, given a muscle relaxer and a pain reliever, and scheduled to have an MRI. A week later, I received a call from the neurologist's office saying that my results had been referred to them and that I needed to make an appointment. A few days after that, I was seen by the neurologist where he diagnosed me with a condition called Chiari malformation. Chiari malformation is where the brain tissue extends into the spinal canal. The doctor began asking me a series of questions, personal questions that I thought was odd, but then I was like, okay, let's see where this is going. But then he explained to me that the form of Chiari malformation that I was born with, patients usually had a protruding enlarged tongue, hydrocephalus, or either severely cognitively impaired. He said I should have considered myself a miracle because I had accomplished so many things professionally. The fact that I had attended K through 12 and some college without an IEP and some special education courses or accommodations was astounding to him. As I left the doctor's office with this new diagnosis, I felt defeated. Then I realized, wait a minute, how hard I had worked, and that I wasn't inadequate, I wasn't unworthy, and I had nothing to be ashamed of. I just thought and did things differently, and that's okay. I became proud of my traumas and struggles that I had faced and that I'd overcome. No one knew my struggles but me, and despite my diagnosis, I'm able to see how far I've come. I have held positions, administrative and management positions in multiple industries, from customer service to data analyst in telecommunication and banking. I worked for a nonprofit rural health organization. I held a number of positions in higher education, from disability services, one-stop student service centers, campus life, shout out campus life, and administration and finance. Shout out administration and finance. I could have let my diagnosis define me, but I know now that I was defining it. While I still have my struggles and weaknesses, my goal is to wake up each day with gratitude and to attempt to make a positive impact on my situation and in the lives of others. It starts with embracing and empowering the real me and all that I bring to the table. And it starts with embracing and empowering the real you. No one on this earth is more perfect at being me than me. And no one on this earth is more perfect at being you than you. No one else, no diagnosis, no situation is capable of defining you. You define you. Every day, we can choose to show up and see the world as a place of possibilities. So with that said, repeat after me. I am enough. I like me. I inspire me. I trust me. And most of all, I love me. Feel what that self-declared acceptance feels like. So as we bring our time together to a close, I want to leave you with this challenge. Take the time to be still and listen to the real voice within. Embrace all that you find, the strengths, the challenges, and the opportunities. Let these experiences inform you and move up and out and through you to empower the real you. Thank you.
Many of us have faced adversity from our past, often beginning in our family of origin. In our next talk, Marian Emmert shares the impact that kindness and encouraging words can have to lift spirits, motivate, and even change the trajectory of someone's life.
My story is about a little girl I knew a long time ago. She was born and raised in Germany, in a family that seemed very functional and very happy and wholesome on the outside, but was in fact very toxic and abusive behind closed doors. The little girl had a speech defect, and her mother never let her forget that she was a disappointment to her, that she was dumb, and that she would never amount to anything. It made the little girl feel sad. The tongue has no bones, but is strong enough to break a heart, so be careful with your words. When she was 7 years old, the little girl and her sister were allowed to pick out a new dress. She selected a red dress to match her little sister's dress. But her mother was angry at her because she wanted her to select a different color and retaliated against her by shunning her and not speaking to her for 6 weeks. The little girl was crushed and never made another independent decision as a child again. Not long after, her parents divorced, and her father and sister, who had been her only support, moved far away, and left her alone with her mother. In 1980, the now 16-year-old girl's mother remarried and moved her to Texas to live with her and her new husband. Unhappy in her marriage, the mother began drinking heavily, and the abuse escalated. The girl felt trapped, hopeless, and fell into a deep, deep depression. And as you probably know by now, that little girl was me. Then one day, a caring neighbor witnessed the abuse and decided to intervene. She offered me shelter and safety and told me that I had choices and didn't need to stay in such an abusive environment. She encouraged me to create a life away from my mother, and her compassion, encouraging word gave me the hope that I needed. When my mother's marriage ended, I made the difficult decision to walk away from my family and begin a new life for myself at the age of 17, ending the cycle of abuse. My mother returned to Germany, and I stayed in Texas, where I found work, a great place to live, and earned my American high school diploma at night school. My very first instructor saw value in me, and for the first time in my life, someone told me I was smart. She took the time to teach and encourage me and persuaded me to pursue a college education. This amazing teacher reached out to me, a young immigrant, and filled me with hope and inspiration and helped me see what I could not see within myself, instilling a lifelong passion for learning. In 1985, I moved to Maryland, started college, married, and had 2 children. Unfortunately, as most survivors of abusive homes, I married someone with familiar traits from my childhood family of origin. And feeling helpless and trapped, once again, I endured physical and emotional abuse for 6 long years before I was able to escape with my children. I lost my home and my belongings, and I felt defeated. I wanted to belong somewhere to someone, but I had no one and nowhere to go. Then, a friend invited me to church, where I found acceptance and friendship in my church community and no longer felt forgotten. Here I learned to reframe and change how I think and live in a place of gratitude. But most importantly, I learned to place my faith in God. I will never forget when Sandy, a successful career woman in my church, said, "Marion, someday you too will soar." Her inspiring words gave me renewed confidence, courage, and the desire to persevere. And in 1999, a part-time job at a community college changed the direction of my life and set me on the path to a career in higher education. My supervisor, Val, had complete trust in my abilities and pushed me beyond my self-imposed limitations toward new projects and assignments. During the 11 years I worked for Val, she guided and challenged me, even invited me into her own home for the holidays, and wrote me a personal letter of encouragement during a particularly difficult time of my life. Thanks to Val's friendship and leadership, I gained tremendous amount of confidence in my own abilities and felt prepared to take on new goals. So, a few years later, in 2005, my children and I built our very own home. 5 years later, I remarried and accepted a position at UMBC. For a moment, life seemed perfect. But everything changed in 2015 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Shockingly, my husband told me he found me repulsive. Yes, repulsive. And he left me. My world was shattered. I was devastated. But my coworkers lifted me out of my despair. They gathered around me, showered me with cards and flowers during my recovery, and celebrated my return by decorating my entire cubicle with pink heart gift wrap. Awesome. The love and support they showed me aided in my recovery and helped me move past this painful part of my life. While my story has many difficult moments, I am profoundly grateful for the gifts I've received and the skills I've gained from this adversity. The blessings and belief in my potential that came from extraordinary teachers, co-workers, neighbors, strangers, even bosses. All who saw value in me before I saw it in myself. Their encouragement, advice, and leadership influenced and shaped the path of my life. And I am forever changed by my church family who welcomed me with open arms and open hearts and taught me the significance of community, gratitude, and forgiveness. These caring, nurturing individuals helped me rise above my circumstances by showing up, challenging, teaching, inspiring, and believing in me. Their guidance and encouragement uplifted me, gave me hope, and helped me overcome tremendous challenges, which in turn helped me become the resilient woman I am today. We all encounter adversities and challenges during our lifetime, and we all need encouragement. Encouragement instills hope, builds confidence, and courage, and can save someone's life. It's not difficult, doesn't take much time, doesn't cost a thing, but it makes a huge difference. We're all able to encourage and uplift one another and make a positive difference for people around us if we choose to. One kind word can change someone's entire day. Here are a few words we can build encouragement into our daily interaction. Smile. It's contagious, reduces stress, it can make someone feel that they matter. Positive words, even a simple greeting, can brighten someone's day and lets them know that they're seen, as my supervisor, Dreamer, has done often for me. A simple card, written note or letter, can make someone feel remembered and special. Again, Dreamer did that for me. Now it's your turn. Can you think of someone who could use your encouragement? Perhaps a coworker, spouse, a neighbor, or a child. You'll never know what people are going through, and you can't always see their pain. Pay attention. So, what's stopping you? Danke.
Extending beyond is an important aspect of generating a vibrant community. It's often the place where we evolve, innovate, and rethink who we are, what we're doing, and why. In the first talk of our last track, Michael Paskowitz introduces a novel way for us to perceive and harness the strengths of our team, possibly reinventing performance management at the same time.
Hi, I'm Michael, and I am a video game addict. Some of my earliest memories are playing Pac-Man with my mom in our basement on an Atari 2600. We used to play so much that our hands would cramp into claws. We called the condition Pac-Man hands. When the pandemic shut everything down, I was able to maintain some level of social connection with my friends by meeting them in virtual worlds where we would battle monsters and explore dungeons while catching up and having a beer. As a parent, I have a complicated relationship with video games and my children. On the one hand, video games can teach so many important lessons. Grit. Some games will beat you down mercilessly, making you try to figure out just the correct combination of runs, ducks, and jumps to clear a level. Look at you, Super Mario Brothers. Minecraft, my favorite game that I've never actually played, teaches the basics of coding and three-dimensional design. My children have created vast worlds in Minecraft that never cease to amaze me in their complexity and construction. But at the same time, put down the controllers and go outside. So, I knew I wanted this talk to be about video games, but how? Then it hit me. There's a particular type of game called the role-playing game, or the RPG, where, if you want to play with a whole bunch of people, wait, that's not right. There we go. If you want to play with a whole bunch of people, especially your friends during a pandemic where you're not supposed to actually go out and interact with people, the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, that's MMORPGs. You may have heard of some of these. World of Warcraft is probably the most popular one in the last 2 decades, but there are plenty of others. RPGs are all about building teams and balancing out people's strengths and weaknesses. They can help you build teams in the real world. They help me better understand office dynamics. They help me design better performance reviews. So grab your controllers, or if you're hardcore, your mouse and your keyboard, high five, and let's press play. For this to work, we're going to need to have a crash course in the different classes you can play in a role-playing game. A class is kind of like your job. So the names of these are going to change depending on the game you're playing, but they all fall into one of 3 archetypes or categories. the healer, the damage dealer, and the tank. We're going to start with the damage dealer. This is your wizard, your archer, your super cool girl with the super cool knives. They're really good at hurting bad guys, but they're not very good at taking damage themselves. That's why you have the tank. Tanks are characters with lots of armor, or lots of muscles, or lots of armor and lots of muscles. That one's a giant cow. Their job is to jump in front of the bad guys and distract them, so the damage dealers can do their damage without being damaged themselves. Oftentimes, tanks are the leaders of the party. The good ones understand the mechanics of the game. The better ones understand the jobs of their teammates and can coach them through encounters. But sometimes, actually most times, the bad guys are much stronger than the tanks. That's why you have healers. The healer takes care of the group. They heal damage from the bad guys. If there's a gigantic spider and you get poisoned by that spider, it's generally the healer that's going to remove that poison from you. All right, now we're all caught up. So, while these archetypes are present in games, you also see them in real life. Your damage dealers, think about your go-to employees for getting things done. They're the creator of things, the data entry whiz, the report guru. You know, productive. A lot of us start off our careers in the damage dealer role. Tanks, they interact with the outside world, often shielding the team. Think about that employee that immediately jumps in and answers an angry email, diffusing the situation. That might be your tank. A lot of managers are tanks, but that's not a role that's exclusive to managers. In fact, many managers start off in the role of damage dealer, then get moved into a position that has to tank, but without the experience or the training necessary to take care of the rest of the team. Fortunately, we have healers. This is arguably the hardest role to play in games. This is often the hardest role to play in life. The healers are those people that know when something isn't right on the team and works to correct it. They can read a situation, know what's wrong, and instantly know what steps to take to correct that. Think about the person on your team that immediately recognizes when you're having a bad day and checks in with you. That might be your healer. So what next? What role do you normally play? Think about your teammates. What role did they normally play? Is your team balanced? If not, what's missing? If you're a manager, do knowing these roles make you better as a manager? Some of you might be sitting here thinking, well, I do all of those things. And that's true. We all have to play these roles sometimes. But if you're a manager and think that, this might be a good opportunity to look at some empowerment for your team, or maybe some professional development opportunities. We just got done the performance review process. If you're a staff member, the mere mention of PMP may fill you with a baseline level of dread. But does it have to? What does a performance review look like that incorporates these elements? Turns out, I can show you, because based on this talk, I decided to reimagine the way I conduct performance reviews. Here's an example of an employee character sheet created to supplement UMBC standard forms. Supplement. Each of the characters in our office combines the skills of the person involved and a little bit of the role that they generally tend to play. This was such a fantastic exercise. As a manager, it made me have to step back and really assess the dynamics of my office and the different strengths of the people in it. We also have a section for weaknesses. This is also a good exercise because it allowed for some self-reflection and some open discussion of shortcomings. This is not something you do without a team that doesn't have a significant baseline level of trust. All of this allowed me to create goals with my employees that both catered to their strengths and a few that pushed them to the edge of their comfort zones. You don't have to go to these lengths to benefit from this. But what can you do in your performance review process to empower your employees instead of making them feel nervous? When I arrive at work every morning, I feel confident in the team that's by my side. I have an operations manager. She's our group's tank. She's a paladin. That's a warrior that swears to an oath to uphold justice and righteousness. You do not want to be on the wrong team if you send over a bad invoice. My business manager is a wizard of the School of Divination. Diviners are powerful mages who use their extensive knowledge of the past to both shape and predict the present and the future. Our IT specialist is a master artificer. Artificers don't wield magic, but they use the power of invention to unlock the capabilities in objects. Our administrative assistant is the office shaman. Shamans are healers that draw on the power of spirits and animals as the source of their power. If you can't tell, her spirit animal is a cat. Finally, our events coordinator is a necromancer, for no other reason, but it makes her happy. So where to go from here? Reframe your office. Acknowledge people's strengths without judgment. Celebrate the diversity of skills in your office. And remember, every role is important. Everyone is a hero.
In our final talk, Dr. Ken Barron will share the 3 C's for moving through adversity as he recalls navigating his own choppy seas during September 11th, 2001.
Where were you on 9/11? Have you heard this question before? I have many times. It's a powerful question, eliciting strong memories and emotions about exact locations, times of day, and those you were with. When asked where I was on 9/11, I tell folks to prepare for an unconventional story. A story I'm about to share with you, yet today I will tell it with some lessons learned. I hope you can use when you face adversity, as I did with 736 people in a rather unique setting over 21 years ago. I was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on 9/11, several days out from Vancouver, Canada, and several days away from Kobe, Japan. I was sailing aboard the SS Universe Explorer, a former cruise ship converted into a floating university complete with classrooms, library, dining halls, and even a student union. We were bound for 10 international ports, taking hundreds of college students, faculty, and staff on an academic voyage around the world. I was assistant dean and a tactical member of a 5-person management team trained by the University of Pittsburgh and the Institute for Shipboard Education. And while we had trained for crises, what we were facing was truly unprecedented. So let me offer a bit more context, as many of the lessons learned are directly tied to the events of that day and the following weeks. And these lessons learned still have relevance today as they can be applied to your work and your personal life when adversity strikes. It should be noted that it was actually September 12th when we discovered what had happened the day before. I was up early to meet with Captain Ryan, as I did every day, to discuss semester at sea business on the captain's bridge at 7 a.m. sharp. It was foggy that morning, and rough seas were rolling in, and I was disoriented because we were turning our clocks back by an hour each night in order to arrive in Kobe on correct Japanese time. And as I climbed the circular staircase to the bridge, the radio room operator handed me a fax with the CNN logo, detailing what had happened to the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and plane crash in Pennsylvania. At first, I thought it was a sick joke, handing the fax back to the radio operator in disgust. Then I felt the big hand of Captain Ryan slapping down on my shoulder, telling me, "Get up here now. We have some big decisions to make, and a long day ahead." And then everything became very, very real. So you may be wondering what happened next. Was there widespread panic? Was a mass exodus planned for everyone to fly home from Japan? Was the ship going to turn around and head back to the United States? Well, I'm happy to share with you that none of those things happened. And here's why. And as I give you the why, I'll offer some crisis management insights derived from the National Center for Disaster Preparedness. Insights, I believe, that not only salvaged our program, but enabled it to thrive in ways we could have never imagined, even becoming, perhaps, one of the most dynamic semester at sea programs in its 60-year history. First, we connected. We connected with everyone aboard immediately. We canceled classes and held mandatory in-person information sessions and simulcast those information sessions throughout the entire ship on every speaker and every video monitor. If you were on the ship, you got our message. Next, we followed up with more listening and processing meetings that day, that evening, and every day leading up to our arrival in Kobe. These connecting meetings helped everyone aboard gather facts, learn about future travel plans, and begin to reimagine how our voyage could continue safely and with purpose. Also on the connecting front, we organized the first ever semester at sea internet service for students, faculty, and staff with New York and Mid-Atlantic families. Thankfully, no one's family was impacted directly by the events of 9/11. This boosted morale and gave everyone aboard a much-needed sense of relief. Our ongoing efforts to connect and keep connecting with empathy had the power to change minds, calm nerves, and replace fear with hope. Next, we collaborated extensively, especially with our faculty and their families. This was critically important because the ultimate buy-in from faculty on the reinvention of our voyage with new countries and new curricula was essential for us to press forward. This faculty collaboration led to the development of a new vision for our voyage, without which we would have lost the entire faith and goodwill of the shipboard community. And doesn't this remind you of how we embraced similar notions here at UMBC during COVID, where high levels of collaboration and campus buy-in empowered all of us to press forward despite a worldwide pandemic? And doesn't this focus on connection, collaboration, and caring run parallel with some of our most deeply held values here at UMBC? Inviting collaboration with all stakeholders fosters a healthy forum for considering unique and divergent perspectives, especially in the face of diversity. And as our new president, Dr. Shears Ashby, reminds us, diversity equals excellence. And finally, there was the importance of coordination, and on a massive scale. Looking back, our management team was constantly integrating and coordinating solutions from September 11th all the way through to our last port in Havana, Cuba. After 9/11, we began piecing our voyage together, port by port, coordinating logistical challenges along the way, which now included new inoculations and visas for all the new countries we would be visiting. Remember, we started with this itinerary. After 9/11, we added 5 new countries which carried new challenges and concerns, especially around legal passage and safety. Fortunately, Semester at Sea's extensive travel history secured worldwide partners we could turn to for help. The State Department, Semester at Sea headquarters, maritime security agencies, medical suppliers, and visa agents were all vital players within a coordination quilt woven together along the way of our entirely reinvented journey. And what a journey it was. When we finally arrived home at the Miami docks, we realized just how much our country had changed while we were away. Army tanks and machine gun-carrying guardsmen greeted us, intermixed with people waving American flags and welcome home banners. Our homecoming was overwhelming and emotional, an incredible mix of gratitude, a sense of accomplishment, and the realization that we had come through an experience incredibly special and unique washed over all of us, an experience for many that took years to process and understand completely. On the personal front, I walked off the ship 30 pounds lighter, yet with a heavy heart, full of gratitude for what I had learned and gained through our voyage of adversity. And my love for study abroad as the greatest change agent within higher education only deepened as I witnessed hundreds of diverse students from colleges across the country transform into globally aware young citizens right before my eyes. Looking back, it was the 3 C's, connection, collaboration, and coordination, that allowed us to navigate and conquer our seas of adversity in 2001. And these same 3 elements are with us here at UMBC today. They're firmly grounded in our core values, and they're ours for us to use now and in the future when adversity rocks our boats. We just have to remember to lean into the storm together and use them. Thank you.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. Come on out. Here they come. Woo! Oh, yeah. So before we break, we wanted to have a little bit of time for a conversation about what that was like for them, what that was like for you. But before we do that, we have to acknowledge the tribe, the community that made this happen. And it was a huge production, let me say that. So first off, I would be remiss if I did not thank my two partners in crime, Melody Wright and Monique Cornelius, who had to endure many long text messages and phone conversations and run all over God's green acres to buy things for the speakers, as well as their expert coaching along the way in shepherding. So thank you, ladies. It was deeply needed. Also to our event and conference services crew, woo, 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 who made the magic happen. All of this magic was made possible by them. Also, our wonderful streaming crew, Dustin, Roddy, and Dan, over at New Media Studios. Give them a round of applause. We also worked with Common Vision and also the Staff Development Committee, who was responsible really for choosing all of you. Do you all know that? We didn't unanimously choose you. You might have just thought that. No, there was a committee. This was a committee decision. So we want to thank you all for that role as well. NHR for supporting us along the way today and behind the scenes as always, as well as Chartwell's, who is providing the food that we're going to be enjoying in a couple minutes. So.
Oh, hey, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think you forgot some people to thank.
Oh, yeah?
So the cohort, we put together a little thing, and we have a bouquet for each of you. And some notes, because of all the work that people don't understand that you all had to do to go into this. So we want to thank you as a cohort.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Monique? Oh, where's Monique? Oh, there's Jill right there.
So I think one of the things you need to know, oh, wow, these are gorgeous. Thank you, my dear. One of the things you need to know is that this was such a heart journey for all of us. You know, we did our best to try to give you a sense of what it was like at the beginning for those of us who watched them go through this process, but it's impossible for you to understand that. And there were so many times where we would be in our meetings together, crying together at what we were hearing and like pushing each other. It was just really, just truly a transformation for all of you. And it was such an honor for us to do that work. So thank you for gifting us with the opportunity to hear your stories and to help shepherd you, shepherd them into existence. So I want to turn the mics over to you, though, because I want you to give them a sense of what the learning experience was like. What was it like for you? What did you come away with knowing now about yourself maybe that you didn't know before?
Is this thing on? So I can confidently say that it really does take a village. The kind of iteration and feedback that I got from all of these lovely people here would not have gotten me to the place where I was able to stand up here and give that talk. One of the things that we did was each time somebody would give a presentation in front of the group, you would get feedback, but you'd also get written feedback. And I have to say, I would save those for when I was feeling a little bit down, because the sheer positivity that came off of those pages was always an instant lift. It was fantastic.
Yeah, others.
I would say I've never done this before, so this was a big jump for me. And like Michael said, it takes a lot, but when you got a good group of people behind you to help see what you don't see in yourself, that's really what makes this experience so special to me.
Yeah.
I think coming back from COVID and coming back to campus and being in hybrid environments, it was great to just be able to meet new people, to connect with folks from various offices and divisions, people we probably wouldn't have connected with otherwise. And so I think we're all going to be great friends as a result of what we've been through.
Definitely a sense of family is in this room. I don't know if you can sense that, but behind this, when we were in the dressing rooms, the women, we were all saying, wow, we all have new sisters now, you know, and I would imagine the guys, you feel that way too. So it's just really beautiful to see that happen. Anything else you want to say?
I think I came away from it just feeling more confident. I think just the process of reflection and going through, like, yeah, I've been through some things and came back, and I'm still a work in progress every single day. And instead of lengthy Lori, I became a little lean and mean, so watch out.
I just have such a sense of gratitude for this process and for these people. I think we sort of all knew each other by what we did, but not really who we were. And it was so great just to learn from people and to learn about the gifts that they bring to this community. And I think that's what makes UMBC who we are. We did an activity once where we had to see each other and we had to stare into each other's eyes for, like, I don't know, 30 seconds. And it was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done. But I appreciated being able to do it with this group because they saw that it was really challenging for me, and they, like, encouraged me every step of the way, and so it was really great. So certainly, I think we have come away from this with, we're not strangers anymore, and we're not just colleagues. I think we are certainly family and friends, and just super grateful for the process.
I'm actually grateful for the process as well because I was able to be transparent, and I was able to do that with this group. No judgment, nothing, just embracing. And so I really came away with family that I plan on keeping and bonding with and continuing our bond together. So this was transformative for me because I'm not a public speaker. And to do this gave me the courage, and it is going to continue to give me courage to do other things.
Okay, two more. Thank you.
Sharing such personal information was scary, to say the least. But it opened me up and helped me reflect on what's ahead of me and how far I've come, and the friendships I've made and what I've learned in this group. I'm grateful. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that it really gave me an appreciation for what my students do, because learning something that's really difficult and challenging and being put back in that position of having to do that and the anxiety of it all, it really gave me an appreciation for them and what they are going through, and also for my theater kids.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now I want to turn the mic over to my esteemed colleague, Melody Wright, who's going to ask you a couple questions so that you can join in our conversation.
So we have heard some fantastic stories, and I'm sure that a few of you or more may have some questions for our speakers. So we're ready to turn the mic over to you. What are you curious about? What would you like to know a little more about? What questions do you have for our speakers?
Good afternoon. Hello. This is my first Retriever talk. I am located at the Rita Rossi Center downtown, formerly known as the Columbus Center. And I want to say you all are very brave and very transparent. I enjoyed each of your stories. I pulled something from each of them. I wanted to say to Mary, have you ever seen your sister?
One time at my mother's funeral.
One time.
What else? Any other questions for our speakers? It can also be appreciations. We realize we're getting close to the 12 o'clock hour. We know that several of you have to go. Anybody here supporting them?
So I just want to, I have a question, but I first want to just say thank you. I am deeply grateful for each and every one of you. You are all very transparent and vulnerable, and that just allowed me to connect at an even deeper level with your messages. And I connected with each and every one of your messages. So thank you. My question to you all, this takes a lot of courage. What inspired, what motivated you to do that? Where did that come from? Because that's a lot of courage there.
I can go. Fun fact, I kind of applied to this not thinking I would get picked. So, so I'm like, I know things, and we'll just submit something, and yeah, so it was a great, just kind of me putting myself out there and getting picked up, so that's just kind of where I was at.
Well, I feel like I'm on the public speaking journey. And so I have to continuously step back into the arena and continue to work on the skill. And this was just a great forum to exercise and to understand the process and have support from people who could relate to that process as well. So yeah, it's a journey and it's a process. And sometimes you just have to get up and do it. And that's what I did today.
I am a survivor, and I wanted to share my story and encourage other people to see that you can make it, that it is possible, and the road ahead of me is where I'm going. There's nothing behind me that I need or want to return to. It's going forward. So this was a big stretch for me, but I needed to do it. I wanted to share my story. I wanted to put it out there that anybody can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
I'm with Justin. Jill asked me about it, and I said, oh, okay, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And then she said, hey, it's still out there. I was like, oh, okay. Well, and then I said, okay, let me just put something, and I was vague as possible. And I said, they're not going to choose me. And in December, she came to me and she said, you're a part of the cohort. I was like, what? You have got to be kidding me. I was like, okay. And so from there, I was obligated, and not that I was just obligated, but I asked God to tell me what he wanted me to say. And because it was not for me, it was for who I was speaking to, you, the audience, I needed to bear myself, and I had to be transparent, which this journey made me so much stronger in so many different areas where I was actually weak. And so now I am continually adding to my toolbox, and I'm grateful for this experience.
I feel like this was a great opportunity for me to show appreciation for so many folks, and many folks here, many folks online, to just say thank you. That was a hard time in my life, and mental illness runs in my family. So I think the opportunity to thank colleagues, students, Shriver Center colleagues, students, student leaders who, especially part of the Shriver Living Learning community, who walk that walk. And I see some folks here. So just as a thank you to all, and then just to be able to put that out there to say, to offer my chance to talk through it, or go for a walk, or go to Okamoka and talk through it. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So I have to say that it's like on my life's to-do list to do a TED Talk. I never knew what I was going to talk about, but I have such admiration for people who can like pull in an audience and who can tell a story and who can be so authentically themselves in front of an audience. And so I've wanted to do this for a really long time, so I was very excited. But I also I didn't know that it was going to be this challenging. I've done speaking engagements before, but I'm usually like behind a podium, which is a safe space. And so to know that you're out here and you really have to tell a story authentically, you have to develop a through line, and there's so much coaching that goes on in the background. And so signing up for this was like my baby step number one to like, okay, this is my like step to doing a TED Talk someday. I never knew what I was going to talk about, but I knew I wanted to do one. And the other thing is that my colleague, Jasmine, in the background, she'll tell you that getting a dog for me was very transformational for me. I was not kidding about any part of my story. My house is like not a pet-friendly house, like not a kid-friendly house. I have white rugs, like it's a whole thing. And so when I finally found my dog and like got the exact dog I wanted that didn't shed, and like it was a long process, and like wrenches just kept coming, and I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But I realized that like I was going through that process as we were coming back from COVID. And so many people were supportive of me because being a pet owner was like a normal thing for everybody else. And for me, I was like tripping. And so it was really like transformational for me. And I was like, well, what better thing to talk about, particularly as a leader, to talk about your vulnerabilities and your struggles, and to know that you had a team behind you to do that. And so that's what inspired me to do it, and I'm so grateful I did.
So a little bit of background. In a past life, I was a circus performer. I have hung upside down by my legs and snatched people out of the air on the White House lawn, no less. I've been on stages such as this and tossed people over my head, caught them, they were fine. So when I first started this, I was like, this is gonna be easy. I've been on a stage before. What's the big deal? Turns out when you stand on a stage without anything in front of you, without somebody else, talking about something that you care about, the stakes are a little bit different, and it was terrifying. So it was really nice having, again, this community that really helped me through a lot of my nerves and helped coach me collectively to be the person that was able to stand up here and have that conversation with everybody.
And I'd have to say it was a complete leap of faith on my part. I was asked if I would do it, and apply for it, and I just decided to go with what was presented before me, and I took a leap of faith. I'm getting close to my retirement years, and I kind of wanted to pass along some of the stuff I've learned, and this just seemed like an opportunity to do that. I did not realize how hard it was going to be, though. Much different than teaching.
Well, thank you for taking that leap of faith, and thank you for all for taking that leap of faith. Truly. Clearly it mattered.
Okay? Let's give these 8 phenomenal individuals another big round of applause. I just want to say a huge thank you. I think the time and effort you put in was very evident here today, and just the way you all showed up with such vulnerability and authenticity is absolutely to be commended. And as a member of the audience, I think we all agree it was a gift to us. It truly was a gift. I feel like I know each and every one of you better, but just the way you showed up and put yourself out there was incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. See, Kathy, that just goes to show you that our speaking is always for the sake of the listener. So you guys did get the gift. You guys got the gift. Okay, so as we bring it home, because I want to make sure that we are getting you out of here with decent amount of time, I would love to popcorn the room. What's one thing that you're walking away with today as a result of attending this? Could be a feeling state. It could be a new idea. It could be a practice. Gratitude. Okay. What else? Encouragement. What else? Community. Yeah. Changing submission deadlines. Okay. I think you've got a convert. Excellent. What else?
Pride in our colleagues.
Pride in our colleagues. Yes. Yeah. What?
Yes, yes, thank you. Huge, huge piece. What else? Yeah, not always a destination, right? Hope? Trust the process. Mm-hmm. Grace and mercy. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Any others? Yeah. Resilience, yes. Anything else? Say that again? How to prepare for disaster, yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, we hope, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Yeah, we all matter, don't we? We all co-create this UMBC. We all co-create the communities that we're in. If you think of a diamond and all the facets of a diamond, maybe each of us is one of those facets, right? We can't be them all, but we can be our one thing. So what's that one thing for you that you're going to be? And we hope that each of those things that you just spoke out to us are now going to be living practices alive and well in you. So thank you again for coming and for the gift of your listening. And we would love to see you out front for the speaker reception. Thank you.